The message for my people.
Nick Dad, baby. We the new label.
Yeah. Now this the black sheep, sticking it to him. I need a crib like I'm Gatsby.
I need it.
In hand, just understand my
Pockets that deep.
with nothing to prove. I ain't got nothing to do. When they can't compete and I got nothing to lose.
Yes.
I'm the one that's gonna benefit. Never been a
What's good, everybody? Welcome back to Veterans Minimum, the number one sports betting vibe on the internet. I'm your host, Nick Dais. At Nick Dais 10 you can find me. All things Veterans Minimum are at Veterans Minimum. We are in the building at the Blue Wire Studio here in Las Vegas. And I am fired up because I'm going to look into the camera as I say this. I've been doing content for more than 8 years. And this guy, I should say, is on the Mount Rushmore. Probably the first face on the Mount Rushmore of my favorite people in the content space. Mr. Bo Templin in the building, baby. How's that
Nick,
for an intro?
what are you doing? Come on. What are you doing to me? That's unbelievable. No, dude, I completely all right, we can get the dick riding out of the way early here, I guess. But we'll start there, and I'll just say, dude, I absolutely believe in Veterans Minimum. I believe in you. I believe in this show. I try and spread the gospel. I don't know, man. Feels like every single person has a band or an athlete that they were like, I knew them during that first album. I knew them way before everyone else. And I truly believe, man, that this show or you or whatever it is, 10, 15 years down the road from now, that 20 million's going to hit your bag. And I'm going to stand there and be like, I told you so.
Dude, I appreciate that. When that 20 million comes, bro, I'm out. I'm out. People think, listen, everything is outrageous until it happens. 20 million, I'm gone. The very next day, all social media is deleted. If you have my number, that means that you're important to me. You get in contact with me. Bo has my number, of course. But yeah, 20 million, I'm like, yo, I'm out. I'm not dealing with you guys no more. And then that's it. I'm going to be down in Medellin, open up a jiu-jitsu school. What do you think of that?
God, I love the sound of that. I really, really like that, man. Dude, the thing is like, I can totally relate to what you're saying because I battle with this constant struggle of every single day. Am I going to be a badass figure in sports, in media? And then the other half of me the next day is like, oh man, I could totally live life as like a beach bum down in Mexico. So it's a super weird yin and yang that I can definitely relate to.
I love it. I love it, man. It's the best. I'm looking forward to it. I appreciate you coming on. It's always good chopping it up with you. It's been a while since we've done this. I think it was back during the World Cup when the last time that you were on. That's coming up on about a year too, which is crazy. But I'm looking forward to you coming out here, man, and us doing it in person here at the studio. But we had the NBA start, and I always like asking people, dude. It's one of like my staples and conversation starters. And I know it sounds pretty broad, but give me like a 1 to 10 excitement level on the NBA this year. I know if you could just lower the camera a little bit, your team is going to have a pretty good year. But thoughts, man. Give me your thoughts on the NBA season coming up.
Okay, so let's get the white elephant, or the elephant in the room here. Let's recognize it. Let's acknowledge it. Yeah. As a Greek kid with family ties in Milwaukee, who's a lifelong basketball fan and Milwaukee Bucks fan, yeah, I'm pretty fired up for this season. Not only do you have the on-court peanut butter jelly, whatever duo you want to put together, you have Damian Lillard, Giannis. Is that going to be exciting on the court? Yes. The thing I'm perhaps most excited about, though, Nick, is their personality chemistry on paper is as good as anything that you can picture. Like, these two guys are dogs. So, wildly excited about the Bucks season. There's a lot that I am excited about with the NBA season, but I would probably say that like my excitement level is probably somewhere near around a 7. You know, I love the NBA. I love the game. But the last few years, the regular season just doesn't have as much of a flavor as I think it once did. And it was funny, like today talking with my roommates, how do we change that? And it's so interesting that the English Premier League does not have a playoff structure at all, right? They just play their regular season. Whoever is winning the league at the end of the regular season, that's your EPL winner. I just was like kind of picturing that in the world of basketball, and it kind of, I don't know, it had my curiosity a little bit, but the answer is 7, and you kind of heard some of the reasoning why.
Well, dude, I mean, not even the Premier League. Every other league, international wise, they just have a season, and who's at the top at the end. How do you accumulate your points? And then what's pretty cool is what happened today. Like you have Champions League, right? So you get a bid sort of to play in a tournament to crown like the European champion of the whole continent. That'll never happen here because of revenue and because of playoff and just the history. But that would be one way to make it interesting, to make every game intriguing. Because for me, dude, I'm at like a 5. And the reason why I'm at like a 5 is because the NBA, you're right about the regular season. I saw shouts to Brandon Marshall, friend of the show, friend of the program. He put up a post yesterday on his Instagram and he said, NBA starts in April, but I'm watching for now. And it's like, dude, that's a great description of how the NBA is, because whether you have guys sitting out because of load management, minute restrictions, whatever it might be, it just dilutes the product. When they don't take it seriously, why should we take it seriously? And now you're seeing all NBA this year. You have new criterias. MVPs, you have new criterias where guys need to play. There's a threshold that they have to hit, a certain amount of games for you to be eligible. You can't just play 50 games and win MVP anymore. I think the number is 50. It's more than 60, I think it is. It's about, they said 3/4 of a season is what you would have to play. And for me, the fun starts when the playoffs start. Now, the other big takeaway I had just from the debut, dude, of the NBA season yesterday, and we're recording while all the games are going on tonight on Wednesday. But bro, isn't it crazy, Bo, that this dude Jokic was like on a farm slugging beers? Like, how much basketball and running did he do in the offseason, and then comes back ring night and just has a 29-point triple-double? And it kind of looks effortless, bro. That's the thing that's the craziest about Jokic, is that you'll look and you'll watch the game, and as I was watching them play the Lakers yesterday, I'm watching and I'm saying to myself, yo, he's not even like having a good game. And then you look at the box score and it's just so effortless. It's crazy to me, dude.
Something we've talked about before with fighting and MMA is the weird balance of supreme confidence, but also like the ability to check your ego. Yo, I got to work on this. Like, yo, man, I almost got clipped in that fight. Oh, this kid from this country has a really good wrestling or grappling game plan. Dude, if you're not watching Jokic from the United States of America, and you're not starting to ask serious questions about what we know about the game of basketball, this guy's doing it like completely different and opposite of what we're being taught and told here in the US. I know we're the best in the world at this sport. I think at some point we could probably have a little bit of an ego check and say, hey man, we might want to consider some other routes of playing this game of basketball, because sooner or later it just feels like the entire world's going to be able to play the game the way that he does, because it's so much more efficient and slower paced. And it doesn't really require the same like barriers of entry that other basketball players require, like the ability to jump really high or run really fast. Jokic, huge body. I'm not saying that he's not gifted genetically, but outside of that, he's really just winning with his mind. I don't know. It makes me ask some serious questions about American basketball.
Dude, think about this also. The top 10 ESPN list for the NBA, they have Giannis, Jokic, Joel Embiid, Luka, Steph Curry. That's your top 5, right? Yo, 4 of the 5 are international, bro. 4 of the 5 are international. And I know Embiid, like he went to college here and whatnot. The other guys are just like from Europe. They came over. Like none of them played college basketball. But the game has definitely changed, dude. And it's just wild that, you know what Jokic reminded me of yesterday, dude? Because Anthony Davis in the offseason was saying like, yo, I want the matchup. I want Luke. I want Jokic and whatnot. It reminded me, dude, and you're going to love this because you're an MMA guy, of when Jon Jones and DC were chirping at each other at the press conference. And Jon Jones told DC, dude, I beat you off a night of cocaine. And like Jokic is like on a farm, slugging beers, dancing, partying. He said he took the months off and then comes back and everyone else is in the gym. And it's like, bro, how defeating is that? If a guy tells you like he's out partying and shit and you're giving it your all, you're doing all these training, these extra camps, it got to be deflating, bro. And that's what I was thinking about with Jokic.
Okay, two things. Two things here, Nick. Two things real quick. One, people are giving AD a hard time about this, right? That he was talking, saying what he was going to do. What do you want him to do? Come on. Like, you're a hooper, okay? You're getting paid millions and millions. You're a superstar in this league. When you're playing your best, you're as good as anyone, Anthony Davis. What's he supposed to say? Like, is he supposed to roll over to Jokic and say, oh, man, yeah, we got no shot at him this year? It's like, no, I would be way more concerned with the Lakers and Anthony Davis if he had not said that stuff. I would have been way more concerned if he had lost the fire and it didn't bother him that the Nuggets, attacked and won the big battle in the matchup against the Lakers. So that's my first thing, is like people complaining about Anthony Davis talking like that. Like, what do you want him to do? He's an athlete. Come on. That's why we love them, is that belief, that self-confidence. And then the other thing is maybe, just maybe, Nick, there's like a little rope-a-dope happening with Jokic. Do you really think he doesn't care that much? Because, I don't know, for a guy who's dedicating 8 months out of his year to this sport, and I would imagine he would love to run less, and I would love to imagine that he would love to eat more food, but he still makes these sacrifices. I don't know. Like, of course, I love the clips of him, loving his horses and talking shit on the NBA schedule or whatever it is, but ultimately, I think he cares more than he lets on.
Sure, but I think that's what the big appeal with him is too. Where when they won the finals, and he was just so nonchalant about it. He's like, now we can rest. Like, he just wants to go.
Was that not sad to you though? Like, was that not 1% sad to you?
Yeah, dude. Of course. As someone that just told you I want to make $20 million and then bounce. Yeah, like that was pretty sad. Like, you have to enjoy those moments too. But I think that's just part of his aura, and that's his thing. I don't want to call it a gimmick. I just think that's who he is. And like Europeans in general, like, they're very laid back. They're kind of just like, they're always chilling, bro. It's one of the issues I run in with like family that comes and visits from Greece. They're like blown away that on a Tuesday afternoon, my dad got to go to work or my mom's working. Where in Greece, it's like fucking nap time. It's like, oh yeah, we're just gonna shut everything down, and it's like, what? They have no concept of that, and I think that just goes back to Jokic, like where they're from. It's like they're chilling a lot, and their thing is just like they kind of do this thing where they're playing the sport. And I'm not saying that he don't love basketball, but there's been a lot of football guys that have come out and been like, yo, I didn't love football. It just helped me get successful. Or I don't love fighting, but it's a thing that I'm great at. GSP, he says he hates fighting, but it was what made him successful and what made him who he was. So it's a weird dynamic, bro. And I would love to one day be able to just like, we need like a 30 for 30 on him he would be fascinating.
Yeah, he would be. I want to know the truth. I want to know that someday. I think someday we will get a little more truth to him, but I don't think it's going to be anytime soon yet.
We spent some time on Jokic, and he's going to be a big talking point. Obviously, they're the defending champion. And one thing that really jumped out to me, bro, was how many people weren't picking the Nuggets to repeat. A lot of people were picking your team. A lot of people are picking the Celtics, the Suns, and obviously because of the flashy moves that were made. But I think, and I've been harping on this for a couple of years now, how if Murray doesn't get hurt, who knows if this is, a second title that they've won, right? Like, we don't know, or they're going for 3. And this all started when the Nuggets went to the finals last year and everyone was bad-mouthing them, saying, oh, no one's going to watch the finals now because it's Denver. It's a small market. Like, who cares about Denver? It's like, bro, who cared about Golden State in 2013? Nobody. But you get these, like, generational talents. And I hate using that word because, like, everyone's a generational talent. But, like, Jokic is, right? Steph Curry was and still is. It's like now they're a household name and they're becoming more and more popular. And Jamal Murray now is coming into this year after winning a title. He's not coming back off rehab and trying to get back into the swing of things after getting hurt. It blew my mind how many people weren't picking the Nuggets because I don't want to overreact to one game, but they lose Bruce Brown in the offseason, dude. But don't Jokic, Bo, strike you as someone that could just make anybody elevate just being around him?
Yeah, I'm 1,000,000%. When the Bucks won their championship in 21, the following weeks after the NBA Finals, Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton ended up to go play overseas in the Olympics for Team USA. And this was like, this is after a deep playoff run. You just won the title. Like 3 of the series went to game 7s, right? Your body's broken down. And that following year in 2022, Middleton was pretty banged up, at least for a lot of the first half of the season and a decent chunk of the second half. The long postseasons wear on you. That's my only concern with the Nuggets. Like, I have zero roster issues with them. I don't foresee any coaching issues. I see zero team chemistry issues. And it's just like, man, I check off those boxes. They are undeniably like a top 3 favorite to win this thing again. And it feels that their title run was duplicatable. Like, that's something they could do again. I don't foresee that as, oh man, did the Nuggets really string some games together? Oh, did the Nuggets get hot? Like, not really. It didn't feel that the Nuggets got that hot. It felt like that was just Nuggets basketball. That is probably the reason I like them so much heading into this year.
I agree with you with the wear and tear. But, bro, they were beating the piss out of people in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And they had no game 7s, right? Like, they cleaned up. They breezed through, bro. Like, look, in the first round, they won in 5. Against Phoenix, they won in 6. They swept the Lakers. And then they beat the Heat in 5. So they lost 3 games in the playoffs. 4 games, excuse me. 4 games in the playoffs. So they're not playing these like lengthy series, which are right. Like, yo, dude, I was super, I don't know if you knew this, but I from like 2008 to about 2016, I was all in on hockey. Fucking loved hockey. I still like hockey. I love going to hockey games. But like, bro, I could have told you about the Rangers. Like, I was watching the Rangers all the time. And one of the knocks on the Rangers then were like the John Tortorella Rangers. They would play 7-game series every single time. And it would be 1-0, 2-1 games. Lundqvist is standing on his head. And they would lead the league in block shots. Like, all the defensemen, Delzato and Girardi and all these dudes are just eating hockey pucks off their bodies. And then eventually, like, you just fall off a cliff because you're playing all these playoff games. And we know about the intensity in the playoffs with the Nuggets. I know different sports, obviously, but the Nuggets, they didn't play much in the playoffs.
Yeah, you're talking about the hockey comp. And this actually works out really well for the Nuggets, but that strategy of like, oh, let's go 7 games. Like, a lot of people might view that as, oh, the Rangers got taken to 7 games, right? Because that's the team who won. Maybe they should have won a few games earlier. But I also think you could view it as like, maybe the Rangers were trying to take them into deep water. Maybe the Rangers felt the comfort in those late games. Maybe they liked the flavor and the energy of MSG in games 5, 6, 7, whatever it is. Like, I don't know. I think there's a lot of different ways to win a series. And for the Nuggets, they don't have to go to deep waters. At least they haven't proven to have to yet. And I think that's really beneficial for them trying to replicate the success that they've had so far. It's nice that they don't have to rely on, deep waters.
Yeah, it's interesting. We're going to have to wait and see how this plays out. But I think we're in the middle of something special with Denver. And if you go back to like the bubble year and then the years after, if they don't lose Jamal Murray, and obviously that's part of the game, I think you're looking at this sort of in the middle of a dynasty potentially. But let's talk about a team that you like to go maybe over their win total. Give me a team that you like to go over their win total.
Okay, so this was you sent over some questions, beforehand, and that I just wanted to do some homework on, do some prep work. This is a gross pick, man. But I actually didn't want to pick like a good team or like a good pick. I wanted something that I could build like an argument on, right? I just wanted to come with something that I could at least lay out some points and say, you know what, maybe it's a little wackier. Okay, so here's what I got for you, Nick. This team was 27-55 last year. Their superstar, their best player, in my opinion, only played in 36 of those games. And the total for this team, this upcoming season, is 31.5 wins. The Charlotte Hornets last year did not have LaMelo Ball for over half of the season. And this is a team that's got plenty of public media issues. The public just cannot stand them right now. They've made morality questions, whatever. Listen, we're not here to talk about it. All my point is one, the public hates them. Two, their win total from last year essentially is the same as this year, but your superstar, your best player, LaMelo Ball, should be playing in at least 20 more games, and that's giving him 20 games to be injured for. So, that was my answer to that. And again, just wanted to build an argument more than I wanted to make a pick.
You bring up something interesting, whether it's the Hornets or just in general. When a win total is within, in the NBA, at least for me, this is how I view it. When you look at a team's wins from the year before, and then the year after, they're setting a number that's within, my number is 5 in my head. If it's within 5 games of that number, and you factor in what you mentioned, LaMelo wasn't there for all those games, right? Like about 45 games he missed. You're telling me that if LaMelo plays 35 of those games, they're not winning at least 5 of those to get you to the over based on what we know from the year before. So it's just like a rule of thumb. And that's one of the things I like doing with this show, bro, is sort of giving people like spots and scenarios you have to almost always bet on by default. I talk about this in the NFL all the time. You have a team that is perceived and we know is good. They get blown out the week before. And if it's on prime time, it's even better. It makes the case even better. Take them the next week. Because more times than not, if they are good, if they want to be a serious contender, they're going to bounce back in a big way. And there's some teams that we're going to talk about in the NFL a little bit later. But it's kind of the same concept that I'm bringing up here where, not that the Hornets are a contender, but yeah, LaMelo didn't play. That's their best player. Take the best player off any team in any sport. There's going to be a downgrade, bro. There's a reason why he's a max contract kind of player.
Yeah, I mean, he also just completely gets the offense involved. So I don't know. That was just one that caught my eye. And the other thing, Nick, and I'm going to say this probably a couple more times, but last time I was on your show, we talked about I joined Vayner Sports for my role. So for work right now, I'm doing social media strategy for athletes at Vayner Sports. So I'm no longer doing any gambling betting content. For the last 2 years, I was with DraftKings. I was doing stuff over at 1:37 p.m. daily podcast, all that stuff. So in the last year, kind of since that change and transition, I'm not really viewing it as making picks. I'm trying to find arguments, man. I love building stories or narratives, and we're going to get to it later, but this whole talk of the town team narrative, dude, I can get behind that stuff all day long. And this felt kind of like that.
Well, bro, that's a lot of what betting is also. It's public perception that's built into it. And I have a group of friends that I've known my whole life. And look, I'm going to clip this out, and I might even tag them because I've been feeling spicy lately. They don't really know anything about betting. So I'll ask them what they like. And if they tell me a pick and I'm on the other side, I feel so good about it. Right? They were all telling me about Miami last week. They're like, bro, Philly just lost to the Jets. It's what did I just tell you before, Bo? Philly just lost to the Jets the week before. All right, it wasn't on prime time. But, dude, how do you lose to the Jets and Zach Wilson? What the fuck? Oh, you're under a field goal at home against Miami, who we know is a good team. Well, I don't know if we know they're a good team. They're kind of a bully. You know, they've beaten the teams that they've beaten have like a 5-28 record. But anyway, besides the point, they were on Miami. I'm like, oh, I love Philly so much more now, right? They were on the Lions. I love the Ravens so much more now. So a lot of it is public perception. And what's the conversation? Because the sports books know this too, dude. The Lions last week, the talk of the town, everyone's talking about them. Stephen A. Smith put them as their number one team in the NFL. And then everyone's betting the Lions. It's like, all right, yeah, we're definitely taking Baltimore here. So it's just little things like that I think go a long way. I want to mention a team, and I want to hear your thoughts on this, because I feel as if the younger the team, the better for the regular season. To use the talk of the town scenario here, a lot of people are high on the Thunder. Like, a lot of people. Their win total is at 44.5. I like the over. I want to give you a hot take, bro. I think they could be a top 3 seed. The reason why I say that is because they have a young core. They got SGA, who was all NBA last year. He did do the skims with Kim K, so we got to monitor that. The off the field stuff could be a little wacky, you know.
No, that makes me want to hit the over more.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I didn't know he had superstar qualities like that. Like, once I saw that, I'm like, oh, you know what? He actually is going to go up my MVP rankings.
Dude, I love this. He got the Kim cosign. Okay. That's an upgrade for that. But on a serious note, I feel like young teams, and I've talked about this in the past, like with the Nuggets early on. Remember the Nuggets a couple of years ago were a 1 seed like out of nowhere, and then they ended up like faltering in the playoffs. Seen it in the past with like the Hawks. Those like Hawks teams would take the regular season really seriously, and then you'd have teams like the Spurs and the Heat kind of be like, "Yeah, we'll be the 6th seed. It's cool." But the Thunder have the youngest roster in the NBA. They're getting Chet, who they didn't have him last year. You throw him in the mix with SGA. This is a team that got in the play-in game. The West is stacked, but I also think SGA now is on that superstar level. He's a dark horse candidate for MVP for sure. I think they're a borderline 50-win team. So them being at 44.5, I'm leaning towards the over on that, and rather comfortably.
Yeah, you're definitely not alone in this belief that they have the potential of a 3 seed. Like, they're actually probably one of the few teams in the NBA where their win total probably hovers in like a 10-game gap almost. Like, they're one of the very few teams that might be hard to pinpoint the exact, expected wins for them. But the only downside that I can think of to Oklahoma City Thunder, and really just to play devil's advocate, because everything you're saying is correct, right? Young team, they're going to get a lot of wins. SGA is great. They're getting Chet Holmgren back. All those things are true and should be factors in how they do this year. The only thing that is different from this year and last year is expectations.
Bingo.
This year, for the first time in the last 7 years, people are going to see Oklahoma City Thunder on their schedule for the next day and go, shit, we got SGA tomorrow. That's new to them. So there's no more, oh man, we really tripped over in Oklahoma City. What happened on that road trip? Yeah, no. None of that's happening anymore this year. Teams are going to be very well aware when they go to OKC. Shit, we got the Thunder tonight. We got to bring it.
Yeah, and SGA is in that range now. He's 25 years old, and it's usually like 24 to about 28 is where that guy gets that, like, he enters superstardom, right? And last year he entered it by making All NBA. But then look, you got Dort defensively, you got Giddey, you obviously got SGA. You don't know what to make a check because we didn't see him last year, but he was super hyped coming out the draft. And they're a team that I think I think they're going to make some noise, man. And I think because they're so young, like you look at their roster, 20, 24, 21, 21, 24, 21, 25, 21, 19, 24, 22, 21, 26, 130-year-old Bertans, and then a 28-year-old. It's like this team is young. I think they're going to care more about the regular season. And there's always a team that sort of enters that top 4 that you just didn't see happening. Last year was my Knicks. No one thought the Knicks were going to be a top 4 seed. So it's like it's a weird dynamic. I think the Knicks were 5 though. I'm mistaken, but they were like, I think them and the Cavs kind of had the same record. But you saw it with Memphis a couple of years ago too. They shot up to being a 2 seed. So it happens, and I think the Thunder are that team for me. That's my play.
Beautiful. Do you have a under play?
I have an underplay. I don't feel confident in it, but this is more so a shit has hit the fan kind of play. Don't you feel like it could go really, really bad for the Clippers? Like, I mean, fire sale, sort of get rid of everyone, because it has a lot of potential for that to be the case, bro. Like Kawhi, Paul George, we know the injury history with them too. They got Tyronn Lue at head coach. The roster is good, but it's also just a lot of, Russ is there, Covington, Batum. I just think like with Paul George and Kawhi, if one of them goes down and then the other one is angry, wants to get traded out. I don't know. I think the 44.5, it's something I'm taking under.
I'm not necessarily saying that they're a 1 seed in the West, but respectfully disagree on the concerns of the Clippers.
Okay.
I think they have too many professionals in the entire building, to be honest. Like, you have guys who have just been in the league for a good amount of time, who know the ebbs and flows of the regular season. They're well coached. They have a great front office. They have a passionate owner. Like, I just don't see, like, I've been to probably 3 or 4 Clipper games every year for like the last decade almost. Like, I love going to Clipper games because they're so cheap compared to Laker games.
Mm-hmm.
Ballmer fucking cares, man. Like, this is not I don't think this is business to him, bro. I don't. There's no way that he is like this with his business, because it would just wear on you like crazy. I think he loves to win. I think he wants to kick ass. And really, this 44 number is already factoring in Kawhi and PG probably not playing the full season. By the grace of God, if they were to surprise us and play like a little bit more, I don't know. I would not, I personally am not viewing them as like they could go into fire sale mode.
They did get on the number 44 last year. They were 44-38. They were the 5 seed. I think with the Clippers, there would be a team that I would want to bet on come February, March. If I see, they've been good. They've been healthy. They've looked good against the Nuggets and against the Suns and some of the other teams in the league. That's when I would probably get in on them. They were also my finals pick last year. I was in on the Clippers, so I got a little PTSD about that. That's another thing with betting too, right? You take the biases from one year and roll it over to another. I want to ask you about the MVP. I feel as if the MVP award, Bo, and I don't know if I've ever asked you this, but this happened around the time when Golden State really emerged as the definitive favorite. It's the only time in my life, dude, when they got Durant and then they got Boogie, and they already had the Splash Brothers and Draymond and all those guys, that I saw a team to win a title had minus odds. Like, they were minus 140 to win the NBA title. You usually, I would say, always see a plus. Maybe it's plus 180, maybe it's plus 200. But to see a minus for a favorite like that was wild to me. They ended up winning the finals anyway. Reason why I'm saying this is because I feel around that time in the NBA, something interesting happened. Everyone was saying to themselves, it's going to be the Cavs and it's going to be the Warriors. That's who's going to be in the finals. And what people started doing to make it more appealing to make it more interesting is every week they would talk the MVP. And then the MVP just became its own thing, and its own sort of discussion led talk shows became such a big talking point. So now I feel like the MVP award, you're going to see it like every 2-3 days. It's going to be updated. One guy drops 50. Oh, he's the MVP. The next 2 days from now, the other guy drops 50. He's the MVP. And you're going to be seeing that. And I think that all goes back to the Golden State Cavs finals matchups where everyone knew it was going to be them two. So why even care about the regular season? This is how you care. We talk about the MVP.
Okay, you might be right. You might be right. And I'm not saying that I'm right. But two things happened around the same time.
Okay.
And it's going to be hard for us to pinpoint what was the cause of what you're kind of getting at here. So around the time that the Warriors and the Cavs were dominating, doing their thing, and the Warriors are this minus favorite to win the NBA title. Around that same time, League Pass is more and more popular. Illegal streams are more and more available for people across the country. Nick, who's in Las Vegas, it is so easy for him to watch his New York Knicks back home. It is so easy for Mr. T, a.k.a. the Shot Doctor, my dad. It is so easy for him in San Diego to watch his Bucks. We are now equipped to be able to see those superstars anywhere. Like, for the first time, we were able to go, oh man, that guy in Philly, he probably deserves it. I watched a couple games this year. Dude, like, before 2005, there was no league pass where you were watching the rest of the league. And that it was impossible to even have an MVP conversation. Everyone was just arguing, what player that they watched the most that year. This is probably the first time where we started to go, oh man, Jokic has a really good shot. Embiid's right there. Man, it's hard to count out Giannis. Those two things happened at the same time. You might be right, Nick, but part of me also thinks that people just are now really able to see people across the league, which makes the MVP conversation more interesting.
Yo, that's a really strong take. I like it. And it makes sense, right? Because that's also around the same time where like streaming became even more popular. Like League Pass came around, I'm looking it up right now, offering streaming video access to select games in 2006. In 2008, it became all games. And then in 2018, it became Dish Network's Sling TV online platform. But in between that was when it became accessible on apps, no longer needing cable. And it's around that time too. Remember cord cutting? Everyone was cord cutting. So yeah, it's interesting, man. And look, I think the history of the NBA MVP award, I've talked about this in the past, but every time around this time of year, you got to bring it up. Historically, you need to be a top 3 seed. Your team needs to win about 50 games. And you need, if you really dive into it, Bo, you need to have, it's very rare that a guy wins MVP having not received MVP votes the year before. So it's not, it's very rare for like, I'm trying to think of a guy right now who would fit that mold that just didn't receive any MVP, like CJ McCollum. That's the first name that came to my mind. But like, imagine if CJ McCollum right now, like CJ McCollum didn't receive, I was thinking of a good player that hasn't received MVP votes, and he's the first one that came to mind. Shouts to Lehigh University's CJ McCollum. Imagine if like he wouldn't be able to win MVP. It'd have to be something outrageous. You need to have votes from the year before is why I'm saying that. And there's ways that you can narrow it down to the guys that should be able to win the MVP is what I'm saying. And for me, I think you got to look at a top 3 seed before you make a pick.
All right. Well, so obviously, we have admiration for each other's content creation skills, but it feels like we might have the same notes here. All right. What I've got in my notes, Nick, what is the recipe for an MVP? Top 3 seed.
Yep.
Pretty much you have to be a top 5 leading scorer in the league and you have to be the clear number 1 option on offense. Like those are kind of the 3 things. I want to show you something. Since 2001, this is what I got. Tim Duncan wins back-to-back MVPs 2002, 2003. Steve Nash wins back-to-back MVPs 2005, 2006. LeBron wins back-to-back MVPs 2009, 2010, 2012, 2013. Curry comes in 2015, 2016. Giannis 2019, 2020. Jokic 2021, 2022. And it feels like when the MVP voters don't know who the clear-cut option is, they kind of are going with the guy who won it the year before, like up to 2 years. I don't know, man. Like, I'm not saying I think Embiid is there because I actually think Embiid might need Harden to win the MVP vote because the Sixers might struggle to be a top 3 seed without Harden. And so that's my spiel on Harden. For my spiel on the recipe of MVP, let's check some boxes here. Top 3 seed, the Celtics will be it. Top 5 leading scorer in the league, Tatum's going to be right there. Tatum's going to be the clear number 1 option on offense. So, obviously I'm a huge Giannis fan. I will argue that he's the best player in the league the entire time. But outside of like Giannis, I would probably go somewhere towards Tatum despite this Embiid evidence, but I just don't think it factored in the lack of Harden.
The last 9 MVP winners have finished in the top 10 in the season before their winning of the award. So like what I said also about that, it doesn't come out of nowhere. Tatum is actually my pick, and those listening are like, yo, is he just resurfacing this from the last 2 years? Because third time's a charm, bro. Listen, he won All-Star MVP. He won the wrong MVP, Bo, and he's cost me a couple $100. I'm leaning towards Tatum, man. I think the Celtics could be the 1 seed. They sort of reloaded. They got Porzingis. They got Drew Holiday. I think Drew is going to be fired up too for those matchups with Milwaukee. Be like, damn, bro, you guys just got like dipped down on me.
Disagree.
Okay, how come?
It's not really Drew's. It's just not Drew's like mentality. He's like not like that. Like honestly, he's way more of a pro. And he's going to go into that game being like, guys, I'm happy to be a Celtic. Let's go win it. Like, I don't think Drew is a FU kind of player. Maybe he proves me wrong and I'm eating my words here in 6 months and Drew's just busting our ass. But that's not really his mentality.
Dude, the reason why I'm smiling is because remember when the Pelicans played the Blazers in the playoffs many years ago when AD and Drew were there and the Blazers were a 3 seed? They swept the Blazers, and Drew Holiday, I thought like Dame and CJ McCollum were never going to come back to the NBA because he stole their soul in that game. Dude, he just has, look, there's some guys, it's the weirdest thing ever. Like, there's some dudes that just always cook that one player or that one team. Like, as a Knicks fan, I've seen, the list is endless. But like, Chris Middleton historically kills the Celtics. So random, but he just like all his best games ever. If you look at it, it's against the Celtics. It's just certain matchups, certain guys, they just violate the other dude. And that's what Drew does to Damian Lillard. So that's going to be a fascinating dynamic too.
He might have like a on-court actual advantage, right? Where like, oh man, Drew's really good at guarding guys who pull up going to their right. So it might be an actual on-court advantage that he has, but I just don't see it as a mentality thing for Drew. I think Drew's just the ultimate pro. He's one of my favorite players that the Bucks have ever had. He's probably one of my favorite NBA athletes I've ever watched or supported. I think he's an incredible person. I think he's an amazing family. I like that he's not an FU player, but he might own Dame, but I just don't think it'll be like a, yo, I got his ass type deal.
I agree. You swung me a little bit. That was good. But with the Celtics, I think everyone, it's weird because I think that there's 4 teams that could win the title this year. Honestly, I would say 3.5. I think it's the Nuggets, the Celtics, and the Bucks. And the reason why I said 3.5 is I got to wait and see with the Suns. It looks great. But Bradley Beal already is missing time because of a back. And he's had his concerns. And they're just so top heavy where you're going to need those 3 guys to get you 80 a night. And then from there, figure out the rest. But I just think it's asking a lot. And these are also two dudes where my concern with the Suns last year in the playoffs also was they had to play Chris Paul, Devin Booker, KD 40 plus minutes. And it's like, bro, those guys, a lot of, going back to your argument earlier, the wear and tear, it adds up. But my pick is Tatum. Hopefully I'm right on this one. I actually went and I bet it. I got it at plus 750. And I think this is the year for him.
Right there with you. I mean, I think and hope Giannis gets it, but I just feel like the recipe right now is in line for Tatum to get this thing.
Give me your NBA Finals prediction.
I didn't want to make the Bucks Nuggets prediction, but I'm going to, only because this week I was scrolling through like old high school and just old Facebook stuff, right? Where I was like younger and I would just post these rankings, right? I'd rank my 5 favorite small forwards in basketball. I would rank my 5 favorite Will Ferrell characters. And early on, I was on Giannis. And then all of a sudden I was getting into these arguments. And at one point, there was a conversation I had in like 2018 where I'm like, man, feels like Jokic and Giannis are destined to eventually match up. Like it feels that way. And so just because I had saw that comment earlier this week, I'll say Nuggets Bucks for old time's sake.
Yeah, that's what I got also, man. I just think that they're the two. Like with the Celtics, I'm kind of fed up with the Celtics in the sense where we're always waiting for it to happen with them. And look, they've been to a finals, but they have a lot of, they give me the same kind of vibe of like those, remember those like Andy Dalton Bengals teams? Obviously, they're way more talented. Like they have a Tatum, right? But like Andy Dalton and the Bengals would be like a 2-3 seed, and then they'd always get bounced in the first round. And it's like the Celtics, not that the Celtics don't make it to like conference finals and finals, which they have. Like they've been, if you look at the last like 6 years, ever since Tatum came into the league, they've had an amazing playoff record and the accolade. They just haven't won a title, but they're in conference finals year in, year out. They always run into the Heat, and that seems to be their kryptonite, a team that just seems to have their number. But for me, it's just something where, until proven otherwise, like I'm going to go with Milwaukee, and I just don't trust Boston when it really matters. And also, I think it's because of Jaylen Brown, dude. I'm not a Jaylen Brown guy.
Well, luckily for Brown and Tatum, a lot of the responsibilities that they probably had to carry that were incredibly difficult, you add Drew Holiday to the mix, and all of a sudden Brown and Tatum, those defensive responsibilities just got a lot easier. And, I think Marcus Smart is a outstanding defensive player. I think he's been really good for the Celtics, but what Drew Holiday can actually do to an opposing backcourt is really special. And I think there's going to be times this year where Brown and Tatum are looking at each other like, yo, dude, can you believe this right now? This guy's just swallowing up this opposing guard. All we have to do is board and get out into transition. Like, there's a really good chance that this is the easiest season that Jaylen Brown has had.
It could be. It definitely could be. And I just feel like with Marcus Smart, they loved Marcus Smart, but you had to make some sort of change. You couldn't run back the same team. And that's why I think they went and they made a move for Porzingis, which is going to be interesting to see if he can stay healthy. We're going to see what happens with Drew Holiday also being thrown into the mix. But I think Tatum, it's the year for him to carry them to that next level. I want to mention one thing about the NBA Finals, and it's really important because, Bo, unlike other sports, you kind of have an idea of who's going to win the title. What I mean by that is, since 1990, this is going back a while, only 4 times in NBA history has an NBA Finals winner had odds worse than the top 5 odds. So basically, if you're looking at this year, for example, your champion's going to be The Celtics, the Bucks, the Nuggets, the Suns, or the Lakers. This is what history is telling us. The only times that it wasn't the case, the Golden State Warriors, they were 28-1. They were actually the 9th favorite. The 2011 Dallas Mavericks, they were 20-1. They were the 7th favorite. The Raptors in 2018, 2019, they were plus 1,800. They were the 6th favorite. And then you had the 04 Pistons. They were 15-1, but they were the 6th favorite. Everyone else, bro, has been a top 5 favorite. Process of elimination tells you that our NBA champion this year is going to be the Celtics, the Bucks, the Nuggets, the Suns, or the Lakers. And that's since 1990. So that's a massive sample size.
That is the reason the NBA is my favorite sports league in the world.
Okay.
Because the best team wins. You look at baseball right now, right? You've got the Arizona Diamondbacks, who barely got into the playoffs, going against the Texas Rangers, who were really hot to start the year, but then kind of fell a little bit, and then weren't even sure if the Rangers were going to make it into the World Series. Like, now people are complaining, yo, what's wrong with baseball's format? Like, these are two teams that no one really watched, whatever. I love that the best team wins in the NBA. That's what I want. That's the goal of all of this, is to figure out who the best team is. And I love that dynamic. I always talk about people say that it's the worst part of the NBA. And to me, like, I just argue the exact opposite. The goal of all of this to me is who are the best 5 guys that can go out and get, W's. And I think the NBA does that better than, most other leagues.
I agree with what you're saying. I don't think the public agrees, because the public loves the underdog story.
Oh, they definitely don't.
Yeah, they want.
Oh, you're 1,000%
yeah, and I'm
right.
not even talking about. I'm not even talking about a betting perspective. I just mean in general. Like, people root for the underdog. Like, we all know that, right? That's why people are always, to bring betting into this, are always going to bet a plus number. Yo, minus 300. This is a lock. Nah, bro, I'm gonna bet the plus 280. Okay, cool. Like, this is what people want. So I think it's going to come down to one of those 5 teams, not really going out on a limb. And like I said, when I mentioned before, I'm at 3.5 teams that I think, and all 3.5 of those teams are on that list there. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I'll have you back on the show again to talk some NBA later on. Not that you're going anywhere now, but just mention that in general. I do want to take a moment to run an ad break. And while we do that, let's give a shout out to one of our sponsors, Fly Me Out. Fly Me Out curates and scouts trips to some of the world's most exciting locations. Those who join only need to purchase their slot. They take care of everything else. Listeners of Veterans Minimum, do you legends ever feel the urge to break away and discover the world with a like-minded tribe? Let me introduce you to Fly Me Out, the premier social travel club. Imagine if LinkedIn, Airbnb, and Raya had a travel-loving baby. Whether you're looking to network with professionals on a beach or bond with creatives in the heart of a city, Fly Me Out has got you covered. Dive into curated experiences, and with their platform, it's never been easier to find your tribe and to see the globe. Don't just travel, make memories with Fly Me Out. Use code VM1 for expedited application review. That is code VM1 for expedited application review. Bo, let me ask you a question. Staying on this topic.
Bring it on.
What's your dream place to go visit?
The 2 places are probably the homes of my family. So I'd throw in Madeira, which is where my family from my mom's side is from. It's where Ronaldo's from. And then Greece, where my dad's family. So those are probably the 2 answers.
Fly Me Out got some trips going over there, bro. That's all I'm saying. Cheap plug away. Fly Me Out. VM1.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
That was a good setup, right? I had a feeling you were going to say. I had a feeling you were going to say Portugal. I know that's your background, but yeah. I just had a good feeling. Okay, let's move on over to some discouraging news that went down late last night in the UFC and in the MMA world. Jon Jones got hurt. 2 weeks away, the big pay-per-view at Madison Square Garden. Him and Stipe were supposed to be the headlines for the heavyweight title. Jon Jones gets hurt, tears his pec. I know why you're upset. I see why you're upset. I'm also upset. People that bought tickets to this event are upset. Now, I will say, I love the interim matchup that they made for the belt. I think that's a banger of a fight, too. But it sucks what happened to Jon Jones, bro. And it also sucks for Stipe, because Stipe has been waiting for another chance at the belt. He hasn't fought since he fought Francis. And it's just unfortunate for both of these guys who, let's face it, man, how many more fights do they got in them?
So I'm upset for a couple of reasons. So let's start here. Again, I'll throw out I work at Vayner Sports. We represent Stipe. So work-wise, this was a really big deal, right? For the company. Like, this was a project we had been spending time on, marketing, and oh man, let's make sure Stipe is just like in tune. Just trying to perfect this entire process of like an entire fight camp. And, yes, Stipe has waited a long time for a chance at the belt. To me, it's more than that, though, Nick. Like, I think he was waiting at a chance at like a legendary fight. Like, it's a belt plus a legendary fight. So that's one reason why I'm upset. The other reason I'm upset, I'm headed to New York on November 10th, and I'm going. I'm going to the fight, but I now not seeing that fight. So yeah, I'm bummed, man.
I mean, look, I'm hoping. I had a friend of mine that dropped some serious money on that ticket, and he is not happy because it was a very expensive ticket. I was actually planning on going back that weekend because one of my buddies is getting married that same weekend, and I was like, yo, it'd be a dope trip. Go to the wedding, go to the fight also. But then the combination of like how much money that whole trip was going to cost, and then a couple of things went down that didn't allow me to leave anyway because I got pretty busy with some stuff too. It was, you're talking about some serious dough to drop on these tickets, man. And you're right, how like it wasn't only a title fight; it's one last chance to headline. It's against the guy in the whole fight game, and the aura and the legacy to it would have been. Like, it's more than the belt, right? To be able to get that notch under your resume to say, yo, I'm the greatest heavyweight of all time. And then I potentially beat the greatest fighter of all time. It's like, bro, what? I would just drop the belt after that. I'd be like, yo, this is a wrap. I don't even want to do this anymore.
There's also something about snatching zeros. And I know Jon Jones technically doesn't have a zero next to his name in the L column.
Yeah.
But man, dude, if you can hand a guy their first L, like, that's just a challenge. It's so hard to say. Like, I totally get why Stipe is waiting for it. I think most people do too. Like, I don't think people are confused about this. I think the situation is very clear. Historic, legendary, epic title fight. Both these guys wanted it. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. But yeah, the UFC deals with this stuff all the time. The card's still very, very cool, but it's definitely not the all-time great gladiator warfare at MSG that we were probably hoping for.
I mean, dude, it's still
Jared Gordon. Jared Gordon's on the card.
Yeah, that was another reason why I definitely wanted to go to this card. But it's a stacked card, man. There's a lot of really fun fights. They're gonna have the light heavyweight title with Yuri and Pajeda is gonna be the main event. You got Aspinall and Pavlovich for the interim. You got a lot of cool fights. Like Saint Denis, I think could be a future champion at lightweight. He's an absolute beast. And then you got our guy Jared Gordon's going to be on there too. You got a lot of New Yorkers and tri-state area guys that are going to be on that card. But the thing that really sucks, bro, is that I've talked about Jon Jones so many times, and I think there's never been an athlete like him in any sport where he is the unanimous GOAT, and he's also the biggest what if in the sport history. Because Look at this now. We didn't see him for 3 years. Comes back, gets a win in 3 minutes over Gone. And he was going to fight again. We were going to get to see him twice in a calendar year, which we haven't seen in 6 years, maybe longer. And then he gets hurt. So now he's going to be sidelined. So now you're looking at it potentially being a 4.5-year layoff with 3 minutes of octagon time. He's the biggest what if. And we haven't even mentioned all the off the field, off the cage, domestic violence and allegations and arrests and all that. And he was still so dominant, bro. That's why there's never been anyone like that. Like, you've had athletes in the past that have been so dominant, but they had all that stuff distract them, and then it took away from their performance. Where for this guy, he had all this stuff going down, and he was still the greatest of all time. Biggest what if ever.
Yeah, was pumped up to see him perform live. Was really fired up. Yeah, all those things are true, and I mean, I could talk about Stipe all day long, as really, in some ways, kind of the yin or the yang of Jon Jones too. It's a guy who's full time at a firehouse, right?
Yeah.
Family with kids running around, doesn't talk trash, has really like no career rivals even in his legacy. Couldn't really be more different people, but maybe that's why I was just like so fired up for the fight, and hopefully it still happens. Like, I know it's a long ways away and it's hard to think about it, but like maybe International Fight Week next year, July, the two of them can make it happen, and then I make my way out to Las Vegas and we can catch the fight together.
Listen, you better make your way out to Vegas way before that, because that's in July. So we can't have that happen. December. That's right. Okay, let's end the show talking some NFL. Do you want to give me credit? Because I love getting credit for the talk of the town theory.
It's all I want to talk about. If we talk about anything else, I'm going to get upset. That's all. The only thing I want to talk about, bro, I sent that video. I don't even know to how many people. That's the only thing I want to talk about is the talk of the town.
Do you know who the team is this week? It's gross. It is this is the grossest. This is the grossest selection of all the selections thus far.
Without looking at the schedule right now, I'm just trying to think of teams that are like getting a lot of love. Like low key, I feel like the Houston Texans are getting like that bad team kind of love right now. CJ Stroud is obviously having a big season. Who is the talk of the town this week? All right, hit me, Nick. What do we got?
Let's factor in two things. Who took all the momentum from the talk of the town the week before?
Philly?
Close, but the Ravens. The Ravens beat the Lions, who were the number one pick for Stephen A. Smith in the NFL. Then they go out there and lose. Who beat them? It was the Ravens. Now the Ravens, they're going to play the Arizona Cardinals. That's why I said it was gross. I will say that the Cardinals, one of the best records against the spread this year. They're catching 9 points at home. I am 100% putting this in the contest. I've already told Kenny, shouts to Kenny Bets Big, we do the circa contest together. If they give us a plus 8.5 or higher, because what's cool about circa is they give you the numbers on Thursday afternoon, and then that locks for the whole weekend. So you gotta submit your picks on Saturday. But dude, they give us an 8.5 or a 9. We're definitely taking the Cardinals because they're at home. I think everyone is on the Ravens. I think the Ravens could still win, but I think the Cardinals definitely cover. And if they do end up beating the Ravens, that video is going to continue to just take away, baby.
One of the kind of the big surprises not surprises, but in the Vayner Sports world is we represent Josh Dobbs. So really for us, like the Arizona Cardinals kind of surprising season or like over or succeeding maybe expectations kind of season has been really cool to watch. Like, dude, his social following has just boomed this year, and Arizona's loving Dobbs. And I don't know, they've been fired. It feels like, they've just been doubted the whole season, like every single step of the way, like for months, just people telling them, they're going to be the worst team in the league. And nah, man, these guys, they're grown men. I just can't believe when people say like, oh, they have no shot at winning. It's like, no, these guys have pride and shit's on the line, and they're playing for reasons that maybe you don't even know about. Like the Arizona Cardinals are still fighting, even though they might not have a great shot at making the playoffs.
Yeah, and I always feel like that's the case too, bro. Like they're listening to these things. They're not gonna go out there and just lay an egg. They know that people are doubting them, and you never know with these draft picks too. Like, dude, 2 weeks ago, Caleb Williams was the next Mahomes, and now people are like, is May gonna be a better quarterback prospect than just because a couple bad weeks? So you never really know. And the Ravens, they play the Cardinals this week, and then they play the Seahawks the following week. I was trying to see if there was like a look ahead spot potentially, but their look ahead spots are coming up with playing the Browns, Bengals, and Chargers 3 straight weeks in a row. But man, I like to fade teams off monster performances like the Ravens, right? And it's a spot where I have to play, because another thing is they're a 9-point underdog. Bo, if the Ravens were at home, they'd be a 16-point favorite. Would you take the Ravens as a 16-point favorite over the Cardinals?
I get what you're saying.
So it's one of those things where anytime you have a road favorite, would you bet them at home and add 6
for the
points?
plus?
Yeah, and add 6
the
points.
+6 number.
And if the answer is yes, then play them on the road. If the answer is no, then you don't play them. You play the dog. So that's always been my basic approach. And look, some people will argue, because I made this case before with professional bettors, and they're like, yeah, nowadays home field advantage is 2.5 points. It's not 3. It's like, whatever, bro. We're in the same ballpark, right? Like, that's what I'm saying. It's a 6-point difference, 5-point difference. Are you taking them if they were playing at home? If the answer is no, then you shouldn't play them. So I think the Ravens are the talk of the town this week. I think Lamar has leapfrogged into he's a top 4 favorite for MVP. And ESPN did a piece on him wedding crashing, right? I don't know if you saw that when he went to, he dropped in on someone's wedding. So like the Ravens are getting a lot of hype. And look, I think the Ravens, of the teams that I've seen so far, Bo, in the AFC, it's the Chiefs and Ravens for me that I'm the highest on.
The question I was going to ask you, and just because I had seen you post a clip about it earlier this season, was the public's betting early on was really successful.
Yep.
And I know at a couple spots that, like, I think books have been killed earlier on in the season. But, weeks 1 through 4, generally speaking, like, sports bettors don't do very well. Like, historically speaking, there's not enough like data and evidence to really like give the sports bettors the edge. There's too much unpredictability. But now is around the time where like, if your favorite sports bettor had a bad first 5-6 weeks of the year, this is the time where like they might actually start to like pick it up a little bit or get hot. So I don't know. I this might not even be what you were getting at. I just got distracted though. I was gonna ask, how has the public done the last like 2-3 weeks?
I mean, last week they got, I don't want to make it too bad of a visual, but all those websites that start with an X, that's how it was for the public. It was bad. 0-8 last week. Betting sides of 70% of the tickets or more. 0-8, dude. And we've been talking about this, Bo, the last couple of weeks, how the public's going 7-1. They're going 6-4. They're going 5-2-1. Yeah. It's like there's gonna be regression. And there was 1 week where they went 3-5, and then last week they went 0-8. So if you just bet against the public last week, you'd hit an 8-leg parlay. And the public number is always 70. Whenever one side is getting 70% of the bets, not the money. The money is the pros, the bets is the public. They get 70% of the bets. That is a public side. Football is the only sport where I tend to go away from.
Okay. That kind of goes along with what I was hypothesizing a little bit in my mind. Really, the reason I kind of got there, Nick, was, last year the Dolphins started really hot.
Mhm.
It's almost as if people kind of forgot how the Dolphins season last year was put up a ton of points, fun looking offense. We're going to smoke out teams that we are able to smoke out. But then after that kind of like 7-8 game stretch, once like teams had gotten a little bit of game film, all right, we're kind of seeing what they're doing pre-snap stuff. They were kind of a 500 team after that, or maybe even worse. The Dolphins, as fun and as exciting and as tantalizing as the offense has been, it reminds me a lot of when Yasiel Puig hops in for the LA Dodgers as a rookie. No one knows who he is. And for 3 weeks goes on the most historic tear like in baseball history, hitting X amount of home runs. Well, that's because no one had any footage on the guy. No one knew who this guy was. The moment people found out that, Puig's kryptonite was maybe like a low and outside slider, okay, he kind of came back, we brought him back down to earth a little bit. I suspect that is happening with the Dolphins, and I suspect that's happening with the public betting right now.
Yeah, and also to add to that, he might not play on Sunday. Brock Purdy and Sam Darnold might be coming in. They play the Bengals.
The concussion, yeah.
Bengals coming off the bye. The reason why I'm bringing that up is because I think now you have enough of a sample size on Brock Purdy where I still think he's a franchise quarterback for them. And I think even though they're on a 2-game losing streak, it's still the best contract in the NFL is having Brock Purdy on that contract. I'll still stand by that. I'm not going to overreact to them losing those last 2 games, but now there's like a 12, 14, 15 game sample size on Brock if we factor into the playoffs also. Now you have a season worth where, oh, dude, guess what? We take away your number 1 read. We take away the flat so you can't check down. You don't have Debo who bails out a lot of shit for you. You don't have Trent Williams for a couple series. Things falter. God forbid anything happens to McCaffrey. It's a wrap. I think we've realized that McCaffrey's definitely the MVP of that team. But now there's...
OPOY.
What's up?
OPOY.
Yeah.
Christian McCaffrey.
Oh, yeah.
Micah Parsons. We need the double action.
We need the double
right?
action. Let's go.
That's the veterans minimum preseason bet, I think.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. My dog listening. I love it. But yo, that's the thing. Like with Purdy, right? He needs everything to be perfect, but there's enough of a sample size now. That's what I was getting to. Where now we have enough film on you to identify that. Oh, dude, you have trouble throwing to your left. You always roll out to your right whenever shit hits the fan.
And the 2 biggest things that I noticed, and again, I'm not like a football X's and O's mastermind genius and none of that stuff, but just these are things that I'm catching at least when I watch the Niners Vikings game. But one was Kirk Cousins pre-snap must have done something right because he was not getting sacked. He was not getting pressured. Like the guy was getting off every ball he wanted. So he was doing something right there. And I don't think it's a coincidence that it was a veteran QB who's like been around the league, who's like seen different blitz packages. If that was a rookie QB, I promise you they would have gotten to him. So I don't know. Something about like, okay, maybe there's something about veteran quarterbacks having a little success against the Niners. Really good defense. And then the other thing was the Niners offense has been stellar when they've had leads.
Right.
They've done an incredible job of like developing leads. The big question is though, could you find a offensive coordinator or coach who's really good at writing scripts, right? The coaches who can write the first 2 possessions out play by play. This is how it's going to go. But then maybe they struggle a little bit with the on the fly adapting, adjusting. Oh man, they're doing this differently. Teams that come out with really sharp opening 1 to 2 possessions might have a shot at a Niners team more than a team who like has a much better success rate coming from behind.
Yeah, but I think a lot of teams in the NFL, they can script out the first 2 drives. And then after that, that's what separates the Mahomes, Andy Reids. And then, like back in the day, Breeze and Peyton. That's what separates you where, oh, now we're down. Can we still play our offense the way we want to? And can we still move the ball? With the Niners, it doesn't seem to be the case. But the other thing with San Fran that's so interesting, and I'm going to tie this all together, and we'll end the show with that. I was going to do something else, but we'll just end the show with that, with the conversation that we're having. The Niners, it's not like they're down 20. They go down a touchdown, and it seems like their offense is just off. Right? Like if you're down 20 points, it's like, all right, now we got to go spread. We got to go 5 wide. No one's going to fall for play action. It's like, no, dude, you're down 8. You're down 10. It's 2 possessions. It's a second quarter. And there's issues. That's the thing that's the most concerning for me.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't view it as much of maybe a concern. I just think it's a play style. Like, no team is obviously perfect. And I think about like fighters who do a really good job of like in the first round, they set the tempo immediately. They come out, hey, I'm going to establish like my presence here in the middle of the ring or whatever I might be. Some fighters need to get punched in the mouth to wake up. They got to see their own blood, come out of their nose and land on their gloves before they go, oh shit, I'm in a fight. We gotta show up here. I think the Niners come out when they establish the dominance early. They're really good, man. Like, I don't know. I don't want us to get away from how good the Niners team because of 2 rougher weeks.
Yeah, and both of them on the road, right? So, like, yeah.
It's also probably discrediting to the 2 teams that beat them.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's a little unfair to the Kirk Cousins and the Vikings. Don't say that the Niners are bad now. Now's the time to say, man, that's a hell of a win for Minnesota.
Yeah, and they were a team that, last year they won all their games by 1 score, and now this year they've been losing all their games by 1 score until this past week, the past couple of weeks. So they beat the Panthers by 1 score, and then they beat the Niners. But the main concern for the Niners is, and they got a bar fight this week against the Bengals, bro. Bengals are a team that they were my preseason Super Bowl pick, and Bo, I just bet them this past week at 30-1 to win the Super Bowl. I think that's a great number. I think they're getting guys back. Another week for Joe Burrow to get rested. Now their schedule sucks. And what I mean by it's a banger of a schedule. Look, they got San Fran and then they got the Bills. It sucks for me because they could drop these next 2 games and then maybe I can get them 50-1. But then also on the flip side, it's like they're probably not making the playoffs if they drop these next 2 games. But the Bengals play the Niners this week. It might be Sam Darnold that's in there. And I'm fascinated by this matchup because the Niners are an absolute cover machine at home. They've covered 11 straight games against the spread at home with Kyle Shanahan as the head coach. And you got a team with the Bengals where this would be a classic, I'm clearing out the Patreon money on the Bengals spot coming off the bye. However, the Niners are on a 2-game losing streak. And the reason why I think San Fran, I don't want to say must win because I think this game is important for both. If you're San Fran, your biggest priority is getting home field advantage because you're not going into Philly. Nobody's going into Philly and winning. I don't think that's happening. I think right now, bro, I feel like we could skip to February. It's Kansas City and Philly. And I think because those 2 teams are so hard to beat going on the road to beat them. And if you're San Fran, like this is a monster game for you this week.
Yeah. I hear you, man. I hear you. I want to argue that like there's a chance that it's another 2 teams. Do I think there's outside shots? But you put a gun to my head and man, like Philly, quote unquote, hasn't looked good this year, but keeps winning.
And they haven't, and that's games, and that's true. That's true. They haven't looked good this year, but they look good in
quote
moments.
Unquote good,
right? Like they haven't played complete games, but they're also a team that knows what it takes to get it done. And then there are certain scenarios in the games where, you know what, dude? Every time it's a 4th and 1, like Nick Sirianni was saying that they play to get 9 yards. Like every other team goes to get 10 yards. Their objective is to get it 9 yards because they're like, we do this play that the whole league can't stop and don't do as well as us. And the more you look at it, it's like, yo, Jalen Hurts also squats like 650 pounds. So maybe that extra, that weight and that momentum and the force of him like leaning forward, that goes a long way. And they've just mastered the brotherly shove, as they've coined it. But when it matters, like they go out there and they score and they beat the piss out of Miami. And even where he threw a pick six, they still won that game, right? Like pick sixes, I think there's a wild trend that if you throw a pick six, you tend to lose that game like 60% of the time. But Kansas City might have the best defense in the league too. Like no one ever talks about that. Like their defense is lights out. It's the only defense in the league that has kept every single opponent under 23 points this year. It's wild. And like no one ever talks about them because it's Travis Kelce, it's Taylor Swift and Pat Mahomes that they're always talking about. I just think it's Philly and Kansas City, bro. And this is what I wanted to end the rant and the show with. You could get Chiefs Eagles right now plus 900 to be the Super Bowl. That's wild. I feel like this is the highest that you could get it at.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think of like, I'm just trying to poke holes, right? Like, you know, when someone says something like that and you're like, wow, that's too good to be true. You try and poke holes in it, right? You're trying to think, all right, well, why are sports books thinking that? Or why is the public thinking this? So, one, I'm going to say that I actually think there's a chance that the Niners do okay with Sam Darnold. So I think there's a chance that like if Purdy was hurt, you know, for 2 weeks, I don't think it's an issue. I think Sam Darnold is fine. Who are the threats to, you know, Philly and the NFC? Because, you know, you would imagine the South doesn't really bring out anyone that's going to compete with them. Like maybe there's a sneaky surprise from a Buccaneers or Saints, and, you know, Atlanta's looked better than probably people expected. But Philly's going to run their own division. The NFC North has a good team in the Lions, for sure. Like, it's a really good team in the Lions. So the bet is like, do you think the Lions can beat Philly in Philly almost, right? Like, is that not what the bet almost comes down to? It's like the Niners or Detroit has to beat Philly in Philly, and then someone has to go to Arrowhead probably and beat the Chiefs. And the team that does it the best is the Chargers, and I'm not sure that they're going to make the playoffs.
You're right about the Chargers, but we can't even say that after what happened last week. Where,
you know, yeah. What do we do?
Yeah,
what do we do? With the
dumb team. I'm going to end with the Chargers in a little bit, but yeah, the ones that jumped out to me were Chiefs Eagles. You get that at plus 900. Eagles Ravens. You could get that at plus 2,000, so 20-1. And then, bro, look, man. I still believe in the Bengals, and I think it's because of Burrow. I mean, it's definitely because of Burrow, right? Duh. But Bengals, 42-1. I'm off Buffalo. I'm not buying Buffalo. I'm not buying Miami. I think this offense looks dope September to Thanksgiving, and then it starts to get cold. Teams play ball control like what Philly did. I think Philly kind of put the blueprint out on like, yo, don't let them get hot. And that's it in the AFC for me, right? And I'm taking those three teams, and then I just think that no one's going to beat the Eagles in the NFC. I think I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make these bets, my futures bets.
The only thing I would shout out is like, despite a slow start to the season, you know, Jacksonville won like 4 games in like 20 days because they had a Thursday night game. They played twice overseas. And they won like 4 games in 3 different time zones in the span of like 3 weeks. I don't know. It's a sneaky little 3-week run that they went on that is really flying under the radar. They had a bad opening start to this. I don't know. I like them a lot.
Yeah, Jacksonville was a team I was interested in. I'm not going to say I was confident in, but you know, you started looking at them last year, and they are on a winning streak right now. And you're right about them getting hot right now. And even though people are upset with Calvin Ridley in the fantasy community, still got a team that has a lot of weapons on the offensive side of the ball. But they were a team that I was definitely intrigued by, because if you looked at their wins last year, like a lot of backup quarterbacks, they almost lost to your boy Josh Dobbs, right, with the Titans, and then they had an all-time kind of comeback in the playoffs. So, like, how good was Jacksonville? But they're starting to get guys healthy, which was a big concern I had coming into the year, that they lost some guys in preseason. But there were injuries that they weren't like season-ending injuries. It was about a month or two they'd be out. Those guys are starting to come back. So, yeah, man, just to put a bow on this conversation, Bo, those are the teams that I'm going with in the AFC, man. 3 teams, and then I'm going to just pair it with the Eagles.
I think that's, dude, I hear the logic and the explanation. I hope it's Eagles Chiefs for the sense that I think most of the U.S. population or most of football fans would agree that that's probably the 2 best teams in football. Like, if you were to pick right now who you want it to be, that's probably it. And, if that was what it came down to, I'd sign me up. That's a hell of a football game, man.
I mean, dude, we saw it. We saw it in the Super Bowl last year. We're going to see it in the regular season in a couple weeks. They play each other in the regular season. And why not? It's like the 2 best teams. We saw that them 2 playing together. You have the brothers going up against each other again. Yeah, Andy Reid, like all the storylines. It's gonna be tremendous. But Bo, this was fun, man. I appreciate you coming on. Relatively short notice. I hit you up yesterday about it, just to pull the curtain back. But you always deliver for me, man.
Light work.
And I appreciate you always. Let the people know where they can find you on
in
social
studio.
media.
First of all, in studio in December, I'll be making my way out to Vegas. No, dude, I'm super fired up. Social wise, at Bo Templin, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. If you want more than my golf swing, me hitting the heavy bag, or me shooting, 3-pointers, then probably don't follow me on TikTok, because that's pretty much it. So, Twitter, IG, TikTok. Nick, anytime, dude. You hit me up, let me know. I'm always down to do the show. Love it, believe in it, always trying to share it and spread the good word.
My dog. I can't wait until I see you in December, bro. We'll do this in person. And thanks for coming on the show, dude.
One last note, everyone. Subscribe to the Patreon. What are we doing here?
Cheap plug.
Subscribe to the Patreon.
I mean, talk about an alley-oop as we're about to go into the Patreon 100%. Yeah. Let's go ahead and give shout out to Bo, man. Patreon.com/veterans minimum. You guys heard the man. For as little as $1 American, you guys can pledge to the Patreon. As you see, we have the tiers up now. We have a $1 tier. We have a $5 tier where you get the betting picks, get access to the Discord. We have a $10 tier, which we're doing giveaways for anyone that's in that tier. We got 2 pairs of sneakers we're giving away for the month of October. Remember, November 6th, we are doing the drawing for the sneakers on the show, on the Monday show with George Carmona. He's going to be in. And then we got a $20 tier, which you're going to get the shout outs, merch discounts, and giveaways, more exclusive giveaways for the $20 and the $40 tier over there. So shout out to everyone. We're at 82 members now. We've gotten over 30 members in the Patreon since August 1st. That's fucking crazy. And I am so happy and grateful for all of you. And most importantly, to everyone that shares the content. It goes a long way. I talk about this all the time, how the best cosign is you guys telling people to listen to the show and to show love to the show. It goes a long way. So reposting the show, telling people that you're listening, it just goes the longest way. You guys have no idea. So Patreon roll call before we wrap up the show. Mahul Patel, Abel Rezin, Ben Kotzian, Christopher Velasquez, Derek Plates, Jerry Shapiro, Jordan Riley, Dylan Chadwick, Mike Stevens, Mike Wozniak, Nick Crummich, Thomas Robinson. And to the newest members of the Patreon, we got Stefanos Grutas, and we got Kevin. Just one word, Kevin, like a Brazilian soccer player. This goes by one name. Patreon.com/veterans minimum. I want to wrap the show by, I'm going to give out the betting picks that I'm making this week. So you'll have the write-up on Patreon also, but this one for people to understand what the Patreon picks are, and I feel really good about this week. All the picks are gross. All the picks are really, really ugly, but this is why we do it. We mentioned how Ursulita is going to be the Cardinals +9. It's ugly, it's gross, but it's delivered in the past. People are not going to want to bet this, but this is what we do. We bet on the games that people just want to throw up at when they're looking at it. And if you go to Wager Attack right now, use the promo code VM when you go to deposit. They will match up to 200% of your deposit for the month of October. That's Wager Attack. Use the promo code VM, and they got the Cardinals at +9. Absolutely love that pick. Again, it's gross, it's ugly, but it's going to deliver. We talked on the Monday show with Kenny how the Chargers always play the dumbest games ever. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take the Bears +9 also. A lot of 9s in this rundown, by the way. This is the 9 week. Even though it's week 8, this is the 9 club. We're going to go ahead and take the +9 with the Bears. It's ugly. It's gross. It's a backup quarterback on the road. But there's going to be 70% Chicago Bears fans at SoFi. We're going to go ahead and take the Bears +9 on Sunday Night Football, which, by the way, NFL, Sunday Night Football, Chargers, Bears, like, what are we doing? That game sucked even before any of the injuries and how this season was going to play out. Shameful, NFL. Be better for us. But we do like the +9 for the Bears. The Miami Dolphins are 9-point favorites against the New England Patriots. I don't understand it. I think we're getting about 2 to 3 points of value here because New England is coming off a shocking win of Buffalo. Now they're going to Miami to play the Dolphins, who are coming off a bad loss. What does Miami do? We know what Miami does. They beat the shit out of shitty teams. Who's a shitty team? The New England Patriots. Yeah, they played already earlier in the year, and it was a close game. But New England had Judon and Christian Gonzalez on the field. They're not going to have them this week. And Miami's back home coming off a loss. This was a place where Belichick and the Patriots always struggled going into South Beach. I think this is a 3-touchdown win for the Miami Dolphins. So I'm going to take the -9. I'll take that big number there. And I think it's a bounce back spot. And if you're the Dolphins, if you want us to take you seriously, this is what we like. A good team that loses in prime time playing a team that now they're undervalued. That's what I think we have with the Miami Dolphins. And then to close it out, I feel the same way about the Detroit Lions. They're a 9-point favorite Monday Night Football against the Raiders. The Raiders, I mean, Josh McDaniels +850 to be the first coach fired. I think that's crazy. I think he should be the favorite, him and Brandon Staley. But I'm taking that one. I think Detroit wants to play at home. They play better at home. Jared Goff plays better at home and indoors. They're coming off a bad loss, an embarrassing loss. I think Detroit is a good team. Now, I do want to pump the brakes a little bit about all the Super Bowl craziness. Let's chill with that, but they should be able to bounce back. I think the Raiders are pretty bad. So I like the Detroit Lions as 9-point favorites. So the two games that they're 9-point favorites, we got the Dolphins and we got the Detroit Lions. And then the two games where they're catching 9 points, we got the Chicago Bears and the Arizona Cardinals. So that's the episode. Those are the picks. Shout out to all of you guys listening. Check us out at Veterans Minimum on all social media outlets, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, tables, ladders, chairs, the whole 9. At Nick Dais 10 as you can find me. We'll catch you guys next time.
In his element, I'm a gold medalist, bronze like your medal is. So many deer in headlights, but it's bedtime. Hear that supper bell, main course be the venison.
Dab. Most dangerous game. Either kill or be killed.